when your doctor's not around. But before we get into our lesson for today, our topic of training, give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. I want to know who's watching and able to hear me. Actually, give me a hashtag replay if you're watching the replay as well. And I hope you guys are excited as I am to talk about what to do when there is no help, when it falls on our shoulders, right? So we're gonna hop in and jump to that pretty quick. I'm gonna have a quick sip of my water, and then we'll get into it. If you have not been hydrating, take this moment, go grab a cup of water and jump back in. I'm going to make sure we've got our trainings live. Mike should be good. And going to talk to you guys about a story that I've got in my own past that leads into this lesson. It looks like we are good on the live stream. Cool. So not too long ago, well, I say that, but it's almost a third of my life. So kind of a while ago when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, there was some help, but it might have been a little bit unguided, right? It was some misinformed pieces of information that I was given when I was first diagnosed. You can't have carbs, you're going to die, blah, blah, blah. It's all wrong. Anyways, when I was going back for help, I found myself pretty often getting an automated response. It says my endocrinologist was out of the office and they'd return on XYZ date, right? We got a one on Facebook. Awesome. Now, this message, while it makes sense, I realized that my endo didn't live at the office. It was still frustrating because I lived with type 1 diabetes and diabetes never stopped, right? Like, I know that you're on vacation. That's great. I'm so happy for you. But my diabetes doesn't take a vacation. So, what am I supposed to do when you're out of the office? And thankfully, since then, they've got systems in place now where they've got someone else that's going to answer for them if they're gone for more than a couple of days. But even still, it's like, well, this new person doesn't know who I am, doesn't know my medical history to the extent that my endo does, doesn't know exactly what I'm looking for, what my goals are. And I found it frustrating when, I was reaching out for help. And even that was oftentimes a chore for me. I didn't want to admit that I needed help. So reaching out to the endocrinologist was still a difficult thing to do. I would reach out, get the automated message, hey, endocrinologist is out of the office. She'll be back on XYZ date. And I'm like, dang it. I just missed her, and I got to wait to fix my problem. And, and sometimes these problems I was encountering were just roller coaster blood sugars, or I'd have consistent low blood sugars. That was actually one of them. I reached out and said, hey, I think my Lantus is too strong. What am I supposed to do here? And got the automated message, hey, they're not here right now. You're going to have to keep dealing with that. And I was like, what? And so for weeks, I had to deal with lows every single day. When in reality, I could have just made some adjustments myself. But at that point in my journey with diabetes, I didn't know that I was allowed to make adjustments by myself. We're always taught like, oh, you have to wait for your doctor to make these changes in your medication, which makes sense for other diseases, other sicknesses, right? Where it's like, don't take too many pills because too many could kill you. But in the same sense, with diabetes, too much insulin could also kill us. But we're expected to know how to make titrations and adjustments on our own, right? So what I want to first ask you guys, and use the chat real quick, has anybody else been empowered to make their own decisions, or did it feel like your doctor expected you to wait for them, or your endo to wait for them to make the decisions for you? Drop the word empowered if you were told from the get-go, hey, you're allowed to make changes on your own as long as you're careful with it. And if you felt like you were dependent on your doctor, drop the word dependent. I want to see where we're at real quick. And while I'm waiting for you guys, my story. I was told to be dependent initially, and then it was kind of left vague and open, and was like, well, if you happen to make changes, just make sure you don't kill yourself and be too aggressive with it. And then now, of course, I completely make my own decisions, my own choices. I actually have my endo ask me questions, which has been wild to see that change. And you ask me what she should do for her other patients. We have a fantastic relationship now where there's a lot of discussion back and forth. We talk about what's new with diabetes, the innovation behind new technologies, and it's just a great back and forth that we have. Very happy with that. But it took me many tries, many years to find an endo that actually did empower me and allowed me to make my own decisions and supported me in that. Right? Would give her feedback, yes, but also would encourage me to go out and experiment, try my own things, because she realized, hey, You know more than I do about your body, right? So why don't I just teach you how to do this stuff? It's great. So in the chat, we've got empower, we've got dependent. So one of each, very interesting. And someone else said, I don't have an endo, made all my own changes to get where I'm at now. I hear that pretty often, actually. So Facebook's popping right now. YouTube, where are you guys at? But with our journeys, with our doctors, with our endos, it's important to realize that, yes, we can make our own decisions, right? Even if they tell us not to, it's our choice to make choices. Like, you don't have to be a robot, but it does help to make more educated decisions, right? You don't want to be taking a shot in the dark with your insulin and just hoping it all works out. Like, that's how you end up in the hospital, right? It's not a good place to be in. We got another one that says, was never with one long enough. They kept leaving, had to keep starting over until now. Wow. So a lot of what I ran into back then was these automated messages, right? Where I would message my endocrinologist office or the doctor's office, and they would say, they're out for the weekend. This is their day off. They're out for 2 weeks because they're on vacation. And I'm like, I don't get a break. I need help right now. Right. And I kind of ran to that decision point, to that fork in the road where I was like, do I make my own changes or do I wait for them and suffer in silence? And after a few different attempts at this, I had realized that it's not worth waiting. And I was careful. And if I did my research, I could make decisions on my own. Now, those initial decisions did not go well. I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I did not do it correctly the first time. Trial and error was my decision, and error did I fail with quite a few times. Thankfully, nothing terrible happened. Didn't end up in the hospital, but you got to be cautious when you're making your own choices. However, there are going to be situations where either your medical professional team is out of the office, like this person mentioned here. They kept leaving. Sometimes people just don't have great access. Like, it's going to fall back on us at some point or another. So it's important to realize that, number one, you're allowed to take an interest in your own health. Like, you're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to be your own best advocate. In fact, I encourage it. If you're not asking questions at your endo's office, something's wrong. If they're not encouraging that, or if you're just not curious, if you don't care, something else is probably going on, and you should have a look into that, right? If you don't care about your own health, there might be something deep-rooted worth looking into, right? But if you are interested, you are asking the right questions, you're trying to take more of an active role in your own health, then there is a next step that you can do. And the first piece of that is going to be documentation. Now, I know this is everybody's favorite topic, right? You get home from the endocrinologist office and you just got told, hey, I need you to write down every blood sugar, every insulin dose, every meal, everything you do for the next 3 months, and then come back and we'll see what it looks like. And you're like, there's no chance that A, I'm going to write everything down for 3 months, and B, you're probably not even going to look at this 3 months from now. So all of my efforts are going to be for nothing. So let's just make a deal to ignore this and pretend it's all okay, right? And what I want you to realize is that you don't have to document like a mad person every day, every hour, just to see these patterns. Oftentimes, you can just do a quick recap, end of the day, right? Or in the business world, they call it EOD, end of day. Look at your end of day reports. Like, what happened today? Did I go low? Did I go high? And do I know why? And that, to me, is good enough to have an established starting point to start making decisions on after you've looked for patterns, right? After a week or two, you're going to know with certainty where those difficult parts of the day are, right? You're going to know with certainty, like, every single morning starts off great, but within 30 minutes, my blood sugars are sky high. I looked it up. Turns out it's called dawn phenomenon. And there's a lot of people that also struggle with this, right? And you'll start to pick things up and get curious about it. So it's not that you have to wait for your doctor. It's about that you have to document yourself and take an active role in your diabetes, but you got to get curious about what is going on, right? Now, the caveat here is that there are a lot of different conflicting information sources across the internet. And the internet is vast. Let me tell you, when I first began my journey trying to figure out diabetes on my own, I came across multiple different perspectives that all conflicted somehow. Like, you think that there's just like two sides. You're like, there's this group and there's this group, and they both say that the other group is wrong. No, there's like 50 groups, and all of them think everybody else is wrong. So everyone's in this constant internet battle over who has the best diabetes advice. And we're sitting here on Google like, who do I trust? Who's the one that's going to lead me to my better blood sugars? Right? I mean, has anybody else ever Googled diabetes help? And then you come across 1,000 different options, and you're like, this one looks like a scam. This one, that's for sure a scam. This one sounds too good to be true. This one, and you're kind of just working your way through, and you're like, the misinformation, right? And then you come across the posts that are like, all diabetes is caused by too much sugar, and you're like, why is this still a thing? Like, why do people still not get this? In fact, let's see what everybody else is at. Comment misinformation. That's probably a dangerous word to put into a stream. Comment search. Comment search if you've searched around and found there's just a lot of conflicting info. Because I know I can't be the only one that's gone on Google and come up with 500 different plans of attack. I'm like, do all these different things, including cinnamon. What's another one I heard? Turmeric, like cut out meat, only eat meat. There's so many different things. I don't see any comments though. Has nobody else searched the internet for answers on diabetes and come up with more than one answer? Let's see what you guys got. I mean, maybe I am the only one that actually Googled it and was looking for hope or looking for answers. Search, but not much luck with Google. Okay, so somebody else did try it. That is what I came across as well. You get a couple good pointers, a couple good leads, and you're like, this looks like the right rabbit hole to jump into. Ooh, nope, they're crazy too. And it's a frustrating cycle because you're putting the effort in, but just not quite finding the answers, even from some reputable sources as well. We got search from Christine on YouTube. Good to see you here. So when I first looked at it, even going on to like Dr. Oz, you're like, oh, he's got a TV show. Maybe he knows what he's talking about. Sometimes, sometimes not. So looking at these sources, like even our doctors, this is where it gets crazy. And I want you guys to just pause for a second to hear me out. Even our doctors, our endocrinologists, our physician assistants, our nurse practitioners, our certified diabetes educators don't have all the answers. Shock, gasp, what's Matt saying, right? They don't have all the answers. And half of this battle is that they don't live with it, right? Unless you're one of the rare few that's found someone who actually lives with type 1, which in and of itself can be a good and a bad thing. Good thing because they can say, look, I get it. It's difficult, right? But a bad thing because unless they're well versed in other type 1s, they might think that their lived experience is the only way to live with diabetes. And they're like, look, I tried keto this one time, totally works. You have to do keto or I'm not going to work with you. And you're like, but I don't like keto, right? Like I love carbs. So it's kind of a pro and a con in the same sense, right? But as you're looking at this understanding that even our doctors might not have all the answers, it's kind of a benefit when you think about it to have them be out of office, to have them take vacations, for us to have to take an active role in our own diabetes. Because if we don't take an active role in our own personal care, who else will? Like, let's just be honest for a second, right? Who else is going to take more of a vested interest in our health than us? Our doctor has like 150 other patients, right? You only have one you. So as a result, who's going to take better care of you than you? So it is actually kind of a benefit when we have those automated messages that come back. Hey, your endo's out of the office for the week. Like, dang it. All right, what can I do about this then? Right? And it becomes this race to understand the variables that are missing, to understand the puzzle that is diabetes. Now, the big part of this message that I want to share with you today is taking action in your own life with diabetes, is doing your own research, is setting up your own trial and error. Now, obviously, none of this is medical advice. Do your own research, all that stuff. But recognizing that we have to look at our lives with diabetes similarly to an experiment, right? Where we have to set these things up of like, well, how does rice impact my blood sugars? Rather than just cut it out entirely, is there a way for me to eat it? Let me try a few different strategies, see what works. There's nothing wrong with trying out a few different diets. I mean, I tried out almost every diet there is. And that's also because I Googled them and was like, I'll try that one. Didn't work. I'll try that one. didn't work. I'll try that one. Didn't almost nope, didn't work. And so looking at what's going to work best for you is ultimately where we boil down to our decisions, right? What is long term in my life with diabetes? What do I want my life to look like? If somebody says, "Oh, you have to be low carb," but you hate low carb, well, it's probably not going to be something you stick to long term, right? So find something that's realistic for you, but also matches up with your life goals. Now, I want to go back to the first thing I said, and that was if you don't have a doctor, if your doctor's out of office, or if you just want to take a more active role in your diabetes management, you got to start with documentation. Now, documentation can be as fast as 10 to 15 minutes end of the day. It can be really simple, or you can get incredibly detailed. In fact, I was going through some office supplies in my office not too long ago and found an old journal of mine with my own blood sugar records, my journals, the things that I was eating at that time, my thoughts on the pre-bolus. Like the whole journal is so cool to revisit that and certainly see some less than ideal blood sugar numbers. It was a rough time trying to figure everything out on my own, but that's the kind of step that you have to take if you expect to get your blood sugars under control without having somebody looking over your shoulder every 5 seconds, right? You have to take that step yourself if you ever expect to get there. Now, the reason I bring up documentation specifically is that if you're documenting and you're doing it consistently, I guarantee you will find patterns. There is no way that you can document daily in any capacity, even if it's just writing down blood sugars and not even looking at like insulin or food. Obviously, the more you document, the more detailed you are, the easier it is to find these patterns. But even if you just write down blood sugars, you will find patterns. It's mind blowing how easy it is, yet most of us don't do it. Oh, but Matt, I don't have time for that. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Guess what we do have? We have cell phones. I used to do this. I would pull up my notepad on my cell phone and I would punch in whatever I had for lunch. Numbers, not like full sentences, just quick shorthand things, right? 15 carbs that, 50 carbs this, 75 carbs that, this much insulin, current blood sugar. Takes 15 seconds, right? You have time for it. What you don't have is the motivation to do it because maybe, just maybe, you weren't told how easy it can be to find the patterns, which will then unlock the answers for more stable blood sugars. Now, I'm going to lay this out for you. Super straightforward. It's not as easy as write things down, find patterns, and hey, it's solved like the next day. It's not going to work like that. It took me multiple years of documenting and experimenting and researching and connecting with multiple different doctors and endos and CDEs. It's a lot of work if you're doing it by yourself, but it can be done. It's just going to take ultra dedication. Like I was robotic about it. I'm just like put my head down and went for it. Now, if that's you, you now have the path. Write things down, look for patterns, make adjustments, keep yourself safe, right? If you're looking for guidance, there are routes you can take. You have doctors, right? And if you don't have a doctor, you can find doctors on the internet. Like they have Zoom for a reason. It makes it very accessible. But if you don't have a doctor that gets it, or you recognize that maybe doctors don't know everything, and you're looking for more of a specific approach, obviously I've talked before in the past, we have coaching programs, we have do-it-yourself programs, we have, actually, I just got mine today. I'm gonna pull this up. We have our Renegade Warriors newsletter. You guys see this? Check it out. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. But they're all full. And so me sharing with you guys today is literally just like I'm teaching you how to do it on your own, because reality is where we're at right now. Our programs are full, our rosters are full, our wait lists are full, the newsletter is full. Like we actually don't have any options for you. So like there's nothing like, oh, you should buy this thing, because you can't. You literally can't buy anything from us right now. But if you want to take the first step on your own, this is how you do it, right? Start documenting, start looking at things, looking for patterns, getting curious, asking the right questions. And all that to say, obviously, I'm active in these groups on our YouTube. I answer every comment, every DM, whether it's across any social media platform, Facebook, Instagram. Sometimes it takes me a couple of days, right? Because we have a lot of people out there reaching out, but that's the place that you can still get assistance. Granted, it's going to be a lot more surface level than it would be if you were working directly with us, but there are ways to reach out for help. There are ways to make progress even outside of your doctor's office. And if you're feeling stuck, this is especially true. You need to find a new perspective. Whether you're stuck with your doctor or stuck with yourself or stuck because your dietitian says you have to eat a specific way and there's no exceptions, you need a new perspective. And that is going to be what unlocks the next level for you, right? Whether that's for time in range, your A1C, your flexibility with choice of foods, you need a different perspective. And I'll give you this phrase that really hit me hard the first time I heard it. Nothing changes when nothing changes. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just stuck at 75% time in range, my A1C, I can't get it below a 7.1. I feel like I'm eating the same foods every day and I'm scared to exercise because I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to go low? Am I going to have to, drink 5 juice boxes? I just don't know how to break through this plateau. Well, nothing's going to change if nothing changes. Like you can't just keep doing the same thing. That's what I'm saying, right? I think they call that the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So, first step today, if you're looking to take more responsibility of your own life with your diabetes, which everyone should, highly recommend it. You'll get much better results if you're the one taking care of you, is to start documenting in any capacity. Now, the more detailed you are, the better results you're going to get because what gets measured gets managed. There's your second little gold nugget phrase for today. What gets measured gets managed. If you're not tracking your numbers, you're not going to know if it's getting better or worse, right? You won't know what's happening. Every day is a new mystery to unravel into chaos. So what gets measured gets managed. Document, document, document. Now, of course, we have a journal. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Trending Health Journal. You can go to trendinghealthjournal.com, I think it is, to grab a copy of that. But literally, you can write down blood sugars in your phone, on a napkin, on the back of a receipt. That's where I started. And before I created the Trending Health Journal, literally napkins, the back of my hand, just grab a pen and write something down, right? Any level of documentation is better than nothing. And from there, start to look for patterns, start to look for averages, look for, am I going high more often or low more often? Why? Why is that happening? Getting curious. And then from there, this is the next step. It's a little more complicated, but learning to assign meaning to those patterns. So it's great to know that you go high every morning, but if you don't know that it's from dawn phenomenon, you won't know what to look for. Even if you know it is from dawn phenomenon, if you don't know how to solve that problem without just throwing random amounts of insulin at it, you're never going to get to a true level of control where you can sit back and relax, right? You're always going to be working harder and harder and harder. And you can only get to a certain point where working harder is no longer an option, right? Sometimes you have to work smarter, not harder. Oh my goodness, that's the third golden nugget phrase today. Just full of them. So work smarter, not harder. Once you get beyond that point, next level, of course, is getting to fine tuning. And that's where we look at the 80/20 blood sugar formula, which is what we teach in our coaching programs. It's literally a plug and play formula that we set up for you. It's fully customized. And that level of control, I can tell you, is just freedom defined as diabetes. Like looking at what do I want to do today, right? And not having to think twice about, can I do that? Am I allowed to do that? And can I eat that, right? You just do because blood sugars are predictable. They're consistent, right? And that's where the end goal for all of us is, of course, is finding the balance between the quality of life, the happiness, but also the health, right? So health and happiness, there's a balance. You don't want to be hyper healthy, but losing your mind. You don't want to be super happy, but die early, right? You want to find the balance, happy and healthy, or happy, there you go, healthy and happy, whatever. You get the idea. So I hope this is making sense. We got another search in the comments. Love it. Give me a quick yes in the comments if this is making sense so far. I want to make sure I'm laying this out for you guys and really mapping it out because this is the process. This is how you get to the next level if you don't have a doctor you can rely on, or if they're on vacation, or if you've been trying, because I know some of you have reached out. And I love that you guys are reaching out for this, but you reach out, hey, I'm ready. We had a lot of people in January who were like, all right, I know we talked 3 months ago. It's January. I'm ready to jump into the program. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, you waited. There's no spots available. Like, everybody wants to start in January, right? It's the New Year's time. But we had to tell people, we had to turn people away. And a few people got in. They happened to message us the same day that somebody else graduated, and it was like, all right, you lucked out. Let's get you in. Let's get you started. But we had to turn people away. And it's sad, but I'm also proud of it. And I'm proud of it because I don't want us ever to get to a place where, as a company, as educators, we are just taking in clients and filling it to the absolute max. Like we got close to that the last couple of months. It really maxed out, and I didn't like that. I want us to be at a place where I can give my full undivided attention to every single person we have in there. And we cap our clients now. We don't let people join until somebody else graduates and gives up their seat. And sometimes people want to stay longer than the initial 2 months that they sign up for. So we had to tell people no. That's just kind of what it is. And so what you can do in the meantime, if you are one of those people that reached out and we had to say not yet to, and you're on the wait list waiting patiently, these are the steps, right? Document, analyze, assign meaning, start to make adjustments, do so slowly, safely. This isn't medical advice, obviously, but this is the steps to start taking progress and into your own hands, to start taking action and taking responsibility for your blood sugars. It's going to take effort. We know this, right? We're no strangers to effort. Diabetes sucks. I realize that. I'm living with it too. But we're not going to change the fact that we have diabetes. So might as well change the way that we approach it, right? Because nothing changes when nothing changes. So I'm going to read this chat real quick. Let's see what we got. I adjust myself knowing what my body does and says to me. Definite patterns arise, but I have been type 1 for 56 years. Love this comment, mostly because we actually started a new branch of our coaching where we're looking at age as a factor, a dependent factor to blood sugar reactions and how it doesn't respond the same way as when you're young. Right? And these are new research methods that we're looking at to identify how that changes things, right? And adapting our formula, our coaching methods to different age groups. We've coached people as young as 4 years old, all the way up to, I want to say 92 was our oldest client, and everybody in between. And the strategies do differ depending on what phase of life you're in, right? So very important to recognize that as you're looking at your own diabetes management. Let's see what else we got. We got yes. Love that. Making sense. Yes. I hope you lecture to diabetes healthcare professionals to teach them to help diabetics. Thanks for all the great information and encouragement. Love that from YouTube. Woodpecker Arborist. Love it. I'm happy to hear that. And yes, I actually have taught educators in the diabetes space. We've actually had doctors, endocrinologists, dietitians, CDEs, nurses, nurse practitioners, surgeons, all come through our program to learn our methods. So I have literally taught these things to medical professionals to then go and take to their own practices. So we're getting the messages out there, getting the word out for the newest methods of diabetes management. And it is so exciting. It's just not happening fast enough. I can't copy and paste myself, unfortunately. So it does take time, which is why we have a wait list and everything to make sure that, we are still getting people the help they need, but it's just got to be, it's spread out so that everyone gets the full help, not just little fractions, if that makes sense. I got another yes here. I love it. Yes, have never had an endo with T1D. Me neither. I'm glad I didn't. It would have been cool, right? Where you could just kind of pal around and be like, you get it, you get me. But I'm grateful that my endo took vacations, that my endo doesn't fully get it, that my endo was asking me questions because it forced me to do my own research, right? And take more responsibility for myself. For years, you guys, for years, I would rely so heavily on my endo that I would suffer silently for months. I kid you not. I knew I was taking too much Lantus. I knew that. But I was like, I'm not supposed to touch it. It's a medication. I'm going to let them go ahead and do it. So I'll just wait till my next appointment. Days, weeks, and then months later, finally, after daily lows, like, hey, this is what I noticed. And she was like, why'd you wait? And that was the first time someone had actually asked me, like, did you know you're allowed to make changes on your own? And I was like, yes and no. Like, kind of not, but I assumed I probably could have, right? But it's a scary thing to do, making your own adjustments. I totally get that. I was nervous to do it because what if you do it too much? What if you do it in the wrong manner? What if you do it something that's dangerous? You want to be cautious with these things. Of course. So any changes that I make very slowly. and especially when I was first beginning. And you want to back any decision you make with a plethora of data. Like, you want to make sure you have the information multiple times over before you go and make any decisions. You wouldn't want to be reckless with medication changes, right? So ask your doctor. Unless you're in one of our programs, then you have the information you need and you know exactly what you're doing. So proceed as we teach you to. But that's the plan here, guys. So you got another one. Seriously, puberty and diabetes is a challenge. Absolutely. I can't speak from personal experience. I was diagnosed at 19 when I was in college, actually. But yes, a lot of our clients have gone through puberty, or I coach the parents of the clients, right? You get the idea. But yeah, parents report back that puberty has been difficult. Requires a different strategy as well. There's two sides to our formula. This will be one of the last things I touch on because we're kind of going late and I got to get back to my clients. But there are two sides to what we teach within the blood sugar formula realm. And yes, we are the only people ever to teach on a blood sugar formula or anything that even resembles that. The one that we teach most often is called the 80/20 blood sugar formula. And there's two sides to it. So the 80/20 blood sugar formula is a proactive formula. It's how we calculate, it's how we predict, it's how we stabilize blood sugars. It is a literal formula where you can do math to show what blood sugars are going to do so that you can take action, keep everything perfectly stable. Like, that's the idea behind it, the big idea. The other side of that formula is a reactive formula. And some of you may have learned something similar. It's called the ARM framework. Anybody in the chat know what I'm talking about with ARM framework, ARM? Give me the word ARM if you've learned that from us recently. We launched something new that's been super fun. Watching you guys crush 90% time and range consistently, time and time again. Let me know if we got any ARM framework users in the chat real quick. And then I do actually have to go. I got a client call. Yes, we got ARM. I love it. Fantastic. I see you guys on Facebook too. So yeah, there's two sides to it. Can you do something about it? Then do something about it. Is it too late? Blood sugars are already going out of whack. Well, there's a way to respond to that properly. Right? And that's the ARM framework. So a couple different sides to diabetes, but those are the most updated versions of what we teach. Now, I know I mentioned we're completely full. That fact hasn't changed. I have nothing for you right now. But what we do have is communication, comments, messages, posts. Use these groups, these communities, our social media platforms to your benefit. There's hundreds of videos, of posts, of podcasts out there that you can use while you wait for our programs to open up new slots for people to graduate. Best way to start with that, though, because there are hundreds, like there's a lot of content that we've put out there over the years for diabetes education. You probably don't know about 90% of it. Honestly, it's out there. It's in the deep trenches of the internet being viewed and read and all the blogs and everything. So instead of making you go search for it, what I would recommend, if you're looking for how do I figure out the next step for my diabetes, is just type the word coach and we'll reach out and get you some more info on where to look for those free resources. You know, it might be on our YouTube, depending on your situation. Maybe what you're going through, there's a podcast episode about it. Maybe there's an Instagram post or a blog somewhere else that's going to be mostly beneficial for you. But whatever it is, everyone needs something a little bit different. So it does help to have a small chat beforehand to make sure that we point you in the right direction and you're not just aimlessly searching through Google, right? And that's the last thing I want for you is just searching, looking up conflicting information and just getting stuck and wasting your time. Last thing I want is you wasting your time because let's be honest, diabetes takes enough of our time as it is, right? The highs, the lows, the frustrations, the emotions, it's robbing us of our quality of life. So I want to point you in the right direction if that's something you're looking for. Now, if you've already got 100% time and range and you're eating whatever you want, doing whatever you want, traveling the world, don't worry about it. Like, maybe I'll interview you on the next one of these trainings. But if there's any part of your diabetes where you're like, you know what, I'm missing out on food, on family, on activity or travel, or maybe it's my mental health. I'm stressed. I'm obsessing over this. I'm trying my absolute hardest, but it's just not getting any better. Go ahead and type the word coach in the comments. And like I said, we'll reach out, ask a few questions to see what you're looking for, and then point you in the right direction. Here's a YouTube video, podcast, Instagram, blog, whatever we think is going to be the best fit for you. So you can start making some progress. And and not have to wait for us to open up new slots, even though we have the wait list open as well. All right. So if that's helpful, I hope that's been valuable for you guys today. Follow that framework while you're waiting, document, search for patterns. And then when you're trying to assign meaning to those patterns, that's where the resource that we send you in that conversation is going to be most helpful, right? Where you'd be like, oh, that's why it's been going high. Oh, that's why it's been going low. Now I know how to fix it instead of just continually hitting my head against the wall, right? So use the word coach to get a conversation started. We'll have a quick chat, see where you're at, and point you in the right direction. And other than that, I hope you guys are absolutely crushing the new year. 2023, it's a great one so far. And I know that all of us have great things ahead. Cannot wait to see what this year has in store for us. So I'll catch you guys next time. Like I said, you can always comment, coach, for more info. We'll see what it looks like. And beyond that, make sure that you are taking action and taking responsibility for your own diabetes, because no one else is going to. You stand the best chance at taking care of yourself. All right. So enjoy your day. Take action. Do something crazy fun. Enjoy this week in some capacity. And I appreciate you guys. All right. I'll catch you next time. Every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Have a great week. Catch you guys next time. And keep up.